Welcome into House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. We're here with the Rams post-game show on House of Horns. Gilbert, the Rams get stampede, I guess you can say, by the Eagles 37-20, but it was more of the Saquon show in this game. One thing that we talked about was how do they go about stopping. They weren't even able to touch him for most of this game, Gilbert. So let's start there. Just your takeaways from this loss to the Eagles.
Yeah, these teams are not on the same level. They're not in the same league. They don't belong on the same field. That game, for a second, I thought, oh, it's a little similar to last year's game where the Eagles were a few steps ahead. No, and then Saquon Barkley took over that game in the second half, and then you realize, okay, this is why this game feels different from last year because they didn't have Saquon Barkley last year. And then, I know we're not talking about the Eagles right now, but the Eagles just seem like they're starting to hit not peaking, but hit their stride to get better and better at the right time. As for these Rams, we're 1 week out. We're not even a week, like 5 days from Thanksgiving. Who the hell are they? What team are they? Are they just a mediocre team that we should not worry about anymore? Or we have to because the NFC West is just a mediocre division. So, yes, this team is not that good. They don't feel like a playoff contender, but they're going to have a chance to make the playoffs. And to go this long, week 12 now, no identity, no rhythm offensively. And by the way, and this is where I'll let you take it away from here. Saquon Barkley put a spanking on that defense. That defense is young. They're learning. They're getting better. But you couldn't compete with Saquon Barkley. And that was pretty much the entire offense. He got over 300 yards from scrimmage there. So they kind of did okay getting the pressure, and then they adjusted by saying, okay, your young defensive players, they want to sit the pressure and put pressure on Jalen Hurts. Here you go. Try balancing out this offense here with Saquon Barkley. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, it was a I guess when you really look at this game is you look at the Eagles in terms of how they went about dominating, and you're kind of left with questions if you're a Rams fan. You're trying to figure out, okay, where do you want to put the blame on? I'm already seeing some of the comments here, whether it's McVay, whether it's missed tackles. I think every phase of this team, Gilbert, from the offense to the defense to special teams, was bad in this game. There's no good takeaway. I guess the only good news that I have for Ram fans is the fact that they're still in the playoff hunt. The Commanders lost a game to the Cowboys that kind of allows you to stay in the wild card for the 7th seed, and then Seattle beat the Cardinals, and Kyler looked kind of hurt there. So we don't know what's going to happen with Kyler going forward, but that also opens the door for the division too, because you have a 1 game advantage in terms of the head to head with Seattle. So that's the only good news I can give you from this game, because outside of that, it was the Eagles came in here and just pretty much bullied you out of this game, whether it was through their defensive line, their offensive line, even your special teams. Josh Carter couldn't even get a 48 or 40-yard field goal in this game. So I understand the frustration from Ram fans tonight. You have every right to be upset about this performance because you're on national TV, but these are some of the things we've talked about, for the majority of the season. Yes, they've gotten on a run. They've been able to, but at the same time, I think we learned more about the Eagles than we did about the Rams, because we've known this about the Rams, and so today it was just on full display.
Yeah, this is where like maybe we should tell ourselves, not to get in trouble with being too negative. I know that's the one criticism we get when things go south. At least for me, I will speak for myself. I get very critical, and I'm gonna side with ESG. That comment, even if the Rams make it, they're one and done. And when you're a team that's borderline mediocre, that's where I have no time to waste here. Like it's just the way I roll. Like if you're a real contender like the Eagles, I'm gonna pay attention. If you're a really bad team, I'll pay attention for different reasons. Who's gonna be the quarterback? How to rebuild? How do you get this thing going? But when you're just in the middle, it's like what do you do here? And you can't figure out this team offensively, defensively. Yeah, they're improving, but you can't be that bad with the missed tackles. You have not enough talent on the linebacker position. Like, are we getting to a point where we should start looking ahead for the offseason? But like you said, Victor, they're going to be in the race for the NFC West. They might be in the race for a wild card, but like, are you going to have a chance when you get there? Say you get the 7th seed, and you have to face maybe these Eagles again or the Detroit Lions, you probably have no chance there. Say you win the division, the NFC West, you get the would it be 3 or 4? Who knows with the Falcons there? It's probably the Vikings or the Packers. Still, I don't think they have a chance. I know they beat the
Yeah.
Vikings there, but the playoffs is a different level. And I get they have Stafford and they have Sean McVay, but week 12, man, you're almost at Thanksgiving and you can't find the rhythm offensively. And then the growing pains of the defense there. When you get to big boy football and you get to face players like that in January, it just feels like they're not on that level. I get it. You want to go for the ride and make it to the playoffs. That's all fine and dandy. But this team doesn't feel like they're as good as last year. And maybe that's where the red flag is for me.
Yeah, and I mean, every point you've made is correct there. I mean, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything as we're seeing in the comments that you can push back on in terms of what we're seeing from the Rams. As you know, it's been said before, you are what your record says. This is a 500 team at this point where, we continue to wait to see whether or not they're going to change their stripes, and they haven't, unfortunately, and part of it too is you saw a better performance at the beginning of the first quarter, but once again you see another thing we've continued to see with Kyron Williams is putting the ball on the ground, and those kind of plays where the drive ends isn't going to help, and you know going empty on in red zone chances isn't gonna beat a team like the Eagles, who came in here well prepared. They were in for a fight. They were out here to prove a point, and they did so. And for the Rams, you're just trying to figure out where do you go from here. But yeah, it's hard to kind of find positives here. I'd be lying to Ram fans right now if I even gave you any positivity from this performance, and the comments tell you that because even they're frustrated.
Yeah, I don't know if you've shown Delbert's comment yet, but Delbert, like he mentions in there, he's the biggest Rams fan. So he tends to have very positive
Oh
and
yeah.
looking at the glass half full comments. And for that, for Delbert, I think that's maybe the maddest I've seen him in a comment since we
Yeah.
had this podcast here, our YouTube channel. So if Delbert feels his way too, that tells you something is not clicking right here.
Yeah, he says Eagles O line and D line absolutely schooled the Rams. They were far superior in size, talent, coaching. I'm the biggest Ram fan. Respect the Eagles. So that just
Hmm.
tells you. Even the next comment here from Danny says the better team won today, man. By all sides, no better way to say it. So
Yeah.
I mean, we're not. I don't need to tell Ram fans what happened tonight. They're telling us exactly how they feel, and yeah, like they're smart football fans. Like, I know LA gets a bad rap from about not being great fans, but they understand what is going on, and you can just look at all the comments here, and they're right in everything they're saying because they follow this team, and they're not going to take crap in terms of but when they see that this team isn't living up to par.
Yeah, I guess in a way, I'll credit the Eagles here because no, we were both of us. I think we're in agreement. We were a little unsure about the Eagles here, and I'm like, okay, are they gonna maybe like pick on the secondary for the Rams? It's been a week all year. Go to AJ Brown, or would it be a little maybe like a one man band like with the MVP Saquon Barkley? Because it's either or. And today was a complete performance for the offense. Like it was set up the pass to get Saquon Barkley the closer to end this game here, and that's where in Philadelphia is very dangerous because when you have a one man team, like whatever, you're feeding the ball to Justin Jefferson all the time. That maybe wins you a couple games, but you're not really dangerous because you're not spreading the ball around. That felt like a complete effort. I know Jalen Hurts didn't have the biggest game, but he was kind of making the right plays. AJ Brown went over 100 yards. He got that touchdown. I think maybe I forget third or second quarter. I forgot that one. But Saquon Barkley took over, and that's the way you want to win in games. Get a lead, build a rhythm, throw off the defense with a good balanced attack, and then Saquon do your thing at the end of the day. Defensively, they have studs all over the field. We praise that defense throughout the whole week. Quinion Mitchell, the broadcast kept saying, "Oh, we were trying to talk about Quinion Mitchell. You can't because they're not targeting the guy. He
Yep.
just guys can't get open. And then even the Rams caught a break when Darius Slay went down. The
Yep.
backup was defending Puka Nakua, and you still couldn't get anything going there. So they got a garbage touchdown at the end to Cooper Cup. So don't let the scoreboard fool you there. So in every phase, like you mentioned at the start of the show, Victor, special teams, defense, offense, it was all bad there. So Shout out to Nick Sirianni. He outcoached Sean McVay there. And yeah, that's why maybe I'm a little negative for the show because it just feels like there's different levels to it, and the Rams are not in there right now.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think in terms of what the Eagles did was special. They just pretty much I one of the comments that was made on national on the broadcast, I should say, was the fact that the linemen went up to Nick Sirianni and were like, "Hey, we want to be a smash mouth football team." And I in one of the tweets I saw from our good friend Gary Klein was like, "Yeah, at halftime, Smash Mouth performed, but
Yeah.
then the Eagles smashed the Rams, and honestly, that was I couldn't say it any better. That's what exactly what happened. Like they just pretty much played old school football on them. They were just physical. And I'll say this: I will say one positive thing in terms of the Rams is they stayed in there for a couple quarters where they were trying to punch back. They really tried. It's just sometimes the other team just has better talent, Gilbert.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good game plan because I think the Eagles noticed early that the young defensive front with Jarrett Verse and Braden Fisk and Byron Young, they were getting pressure. They were doing a good job of moving the pocket, and that's why when they said, "Okay, Saquon, take it over," and when you're a pass rusher, you can't get timing because you don't know what the hell's going to happen, or even having Jalen Hurts mobility back there. It's going to be keep the ball for Jalen Hurts, feed it to Saquon Barkley, attack downfield with AJ Brown, and that those mind games. That's where you get in trouble as a young defense. Also, I'm not gonna, just point at them being young and being first and second year players. There's no linebacker help. The
Yeah,
secondary is not that great either. So you can't expect the defensive front to do everything. We get it. That part's a rebuild. You want them to do a little more. But when you have an overall offense that could beat you in so many ways, that's where you get in trouble. You can't get pressure when you don't know where the ball is going. You can't get pressure when you don't know if the linebacker is going to protect you. If you're going all in to attack the quarterback and it's actually a run play, oh, here's a missed tackle. It's all mind games right there. And then as a young defense, you're just getting worked. And also as a play caller, Chris Shula, it's hard to figure out when there's Saquon Barkley out there. And I can't believe the Giants let Saquon Barkley go to the
yeah,
Philadelphia Eagles there. So, uh,
yeah.
yeah, maybe they're not on the level of the Lions, but they're still pretty good, the Eagles, and they keep getting better. And this is the time of year when you want to get better and better. And I go back to the Rams. Who the hell are you? Are you getting better? Are you kind of like this flat line here of being mediocre? And maybe get into the playoffs because you're lucky. But I don't know, Vic. I don't know if this is the time to talk about it, but I don't know where they rank. Are they as bad as the 49ers? Like, we're getting to the point where the 49ers and the Rams seem like the 3 and 4 team in the division. I don't know who's 3, who's 4. But I also don't know who's 1 and 2 between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. I know the Seahawks were good today, but it's just a 1 week game, and maybe next week a better team is a different team.
Yeah, and I think once you get into the divisional games, you can you can feel better about yourself. But like you're saying, like when you get beat down like this, it's kind of hard to feel good about what the prospects are, even if you get into the playoffs. That's the problem, and so you just want to see them continue to get better. But the problem is, I thought the game plan, I liked it from the defensive side of, they just have limitations, Gilbert. Like the problem is, we talked about this, is like, is either you focus on one of the things that I saw was Chris Shula, what he wanted to do was he wanted to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket. The problem was, and I noticed that they benched Jared Verse a couple times because he kept going, he couldn't set the edge.
Hmm.
And so that's why they brought in Michael Hoyt in for him, because he would not set the edge and he'd get free release and get a first down, getting out of the pocket. And so I understand, that's the other thing too, I guess, is what's frustrating is when you have a team like this where they're finally clicking like the Eagles are, and you have no answer for them. And it just tells you that your talent isn't as good as there. And this is when you're just like, you get punched in the mouth and you're just like, yeah, I'm not there yet. And unfortunately for the Rams, I think they found out today that they're not on that level.
Well, it's not kind of like a little not funny, or I guess maybe ironic is the right word here. But a couple years ago, or maybe last year, we are saying Michael Hoyt can't set the edge. Like he's trying to learn the new
Yeah.
position, and now he's the one helping the young
I
guy set
Yeah.
the edge. So
Yeah.
it just takes time to learn. Like, yeah, Jerry Verse is a freak athlete. He could just pass rush off of bull rush and natural ability. But the other stuff of the game, the experience, things like setting the edge, knowing your assignment very well, knowing when to go, disguises, things like that. That's all going to take time. But again, they're rookies, and we shouldn't expect more. But that's credit to the Eagles for knowing that, and they also know that they don't have help behind the defensive front there. They're so talented, so it's gonna take time. But like maybe that's where we should like. I'm not trying to say we should blame somebody, but maybe that's where you tell the Rams offense, hey, help out your young defense. They helped you out for the past month when you couldn't score a
Yeah,
touchdown with the Dolphins. They kind of
that's a
gave you a
good
chance
point.
to the end. They're helping you out with New England, and they couldn't like when you're getting what was it, -2 yards in the
Minus six
second.
yards, Gilbert, on 10 plays in the second quarter.
So you're not helping nobody like that. You can't even let
Yeah.
them catch, their wind or learn or watch tape on the sideline. So this was your chance to help out your young defense who out of nowhere started helping you out. And you have Stafford, you have Puka, you got Kyron, Cooper Cup, you got Sean McVay, this great play caller. And then you have kind of the offensive line that I think you settled on, right? Bo Limmer, McClendon at right tackle. I know it's not Rob
Yeah,
Havenstein, but
McClendon Jr. just got worked in this game too,
yeah,
Gilbert.
yeah, Jalen Carter was great. I think he was double
Yeah.
teamed a lot. I saw the stat there. I think
Yeah, it was
80% of the time.
Limmer and Kevin Dotson. I mean, there's only so yeah, and then Milton Williams was just had a great game just because he was able to just feast on that left side on the left side, sorry.
But I get it. That's a good defense. Big Fangio, a lot
Yes.
of credit to him. People counted him out to Miami, but you still kind of have close as healthy or fully loaded offense as possible, and you weren't in the same class, and that's where you don't help out your young defense.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like as we said, coming into the season, I thought, hey, this Rams offense is going to need to outscore teams, and that hasn't been the case. The defense isn't, they can't do it all the time. And I thought one of the big disadvantages for this team is the fact that they play a lot of nickel and dime, Gilbert. And when you have those smaller guys and you will go up against a big offensive line like this one, you're gonna get run over. And this is where not having big guys is, and I get it. I mean, I understand where the league is at right now. They're using more nickel and dime because they're trying to keep up with a lot of these 11 personnel. But in games like this is where the matchup, like if I'm the Rams, I don't want to face the Eagles in the playoffs. I'd rather take my chances with the Lions. Either way, you're gonna lose, but at least you can keep it closer because it's a slimmer offensive line, and you know that team better. With the Eagles, you're just gonna get smashed because they're just a way bigger offense in terms of physicality.
Yeah, and then you have the whole mental aspect where you took them to overtime in week one, and then you kept them. Was it overtime also in playoffs and wild card? I already
Yes,
forgot. There
yes,
you go. So you kind of have that. I know some of these players weren't there last year, but and yeah, if they get in, like I don't know. I think yeah, the Commanders are free falling. Maybe you could get a wild card spot, but you're still 2 games behind that. You're only 1 game behind in the NFC West, and even then, maybe if you get the Vikings at because you beat them that's good confidence there. But if you get the Packers or the Eagles and all these teams in the NFC are pretty good, besides the one coming out of the NFC West and the 7th seed Commanders right now. So again, I don't want to get in trouble where we're too negative. But next week they're playing the Saints. Who the hell cares if they win that one? But they should win that one. You need to stay alive in the race. But I think the Bills might be the week after that. What if they come out and beat the Bills and they're look at this podcast, they're too damn negative. So I
right.
don't I don't want
But
to get in
I
trouble, but
feel they
yes.
would match better against the Bills, Gilbert. I thought that game would be just because I didn't feel like they matched up well with the Eagles just because they're just a way bigger offensive line. I don't see that with and I get it. I mean, Josh Allen could go nuclear in that game and just pretty much carry them, just kind of like we just saw with Saquon Barkley. But for me, I just, and we saw what happened a couple of years ago when they opened the season against the Bills.
Oh yeah.
They got stampede. You were there post the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I
it,
can see it, but I feel like regardless if they get a big win or two down the stretch, they're gonna end up 8-9 or 98, and like ESG is saying in the comments, one and done, and like those are teams that I get kind of frustrated with. Like you're gonna waste a playoff spot here. I get it. You have
yeah,
7 spots, and not all 7 are gonna be juggernauts here and playoff Super Bowl contenders. Like there
yeah,
might be maybe 4 teams that are legit Super Bowl contenders right now. So you want to get in, you want to have a chance. That all matters. I get that. But you also have things where like, how do you rebuild the linebacker unit? How do you get more talent in the secondary? What do you do at quarterback because you don't have Matthew Stafford after this year? I guess in terms of contract wise. So Yeah, this team is trying to figure out who they want to be for the long term, who they want to be for 2024, and that just screams to me 8 or 9 or 98.
Yeah, and I guess that's the question for Ram fans is are you happy if they get into the playoffs and they lose in the wild card, or would you rather them kind of not miss the playoffs and just get ready for next season? I guess that's the biggest question because you know what this team is now. I think we've seen enough. We have enough of a sample size to know what they are. But I want to get to all these
Yeah,
comments. It's great to see everybody on here, and I get it. It's a disappointing night for a lot of people with that watch this game, us included, because that was not what we were expecting. We previewed, and when we did our preview, we said some of these things could happen, and unfortunately, that's what ended up happening tonight. But
yeah.
let's start off here. We already mentioned the first two comments on there. So James Wheelock says very disappointed. Too many big plays. He also said missed tackles reappeared. So that was another huge thing in this game as well. All good things says Roseboom and Spates got that work tonight.
Ooh.
Inside linebacker room is
That
so
stiff
weak.
arm into another dimension there, Roseboom.
Yeah, he did, and I saw the broadcast kind of try to say, hey, like this was a guy that was on the Super Bowl team. He was a special teams guy, and he stuck around. We know what the reason he's there.
Yeah, yeah.
We understand. Johnny G says McVay and the Rams always getting embarrassed on primetime games. Outside of the Thursday night game, it's been
Yeah.
pretty accurate. Like we've seen
Well,
this
they got
story.
that Lions game in there too, but yeah, Dolphins, and now this one, I guess, is not good.
Yeah, especially at home. I guess they've been, I guess, yeah, just trying to find some positivity there, but it's hard to find some right now. All good things is Ernest Jones somewhere laughing his butt off right now. I mean, he
He's
went to
playing well.
Seattle and they just won. Ever since he got there, I don't
Oh,
want to bring this up, but Seattle's defense has turned around. Maybe they could have used an Ernest Jones on this Rams team.
yeah, I just
Uh,
read about that. How they fixed that defense after the bye week. They traded for Ernest Jones. They let go of the other it's a Tyrell Dotson. So Mike McDonald's thankful to have Ernest Jones right now.
Yeah, I just man, that decision is gonna haunt the Rams at least through this year, that for sure. We'll see going forward after that. ESG says, I think even if the Rams make the playoffs, they're a one and done, as he said earlier. Givarisi says, should have traded Stafford, Kyron Williams Cup when we had the chance. This season was over at 1-4. So yeah, pretty. I, not a lot of positive comments so far, Gilbert. James Wheeler says, "I'm sick of the Rams getting embarrassed on national games." A lot of people are. Johnny G. Rams need to rebuild. We only had one good season in this era. 2021, 2023 was a one and done year. This team always struggles too much just to be subpar in a wild card team. So yeah, uh, he agrees with you there, Gilbert. And I think part of it we said, I think we got a little bit of a mirage last season with them making the playoffs, because had they continued on the track they were, and if they were to ended up with a top 10 pick, they could have improved this team even more. But I mean, it's hard to even say that, to if I'm being completely honest, because you hit on Verse, you've hit on
Yeah,
Fizz, you've hit on a lot of these draft picks, so it's kind of hard for me to say you should have lost more games and you could have got better draft
I thought
picks.
last year was worth it. That was a fun team, and you got a bunch of players that hit on the 2023 draft. So I think sometimes it's okay to be one and done when you see all those picks that panned out.
Yeah, and then this comment here from All Good Things says it need a mobile quarterback, and I get Stafford isn't a mobile quarterback, but he had a good run in this game in the opening series, and I get it. I thought McVay did a good job of putting him on the run. There's only so much you can do when the offensive line can't protect. I mean, they just Big Fangio had a good game plan, and you just give it up to him. I don't think the quarterback situation. I can tell you this: there's a handful of teams in this league that would take Stafford right now on their team. There's at least 20 teams. I can tell you that, Gilbert.
Yeah, but supposedly a lot of people want to get Daniel Jones too, so maybe the Rams are one of those
Uh,
teams.
AOA Rams. I was
There's a
just
lot of teams involved in trying to sign Daniel Jones, and he's mobile too.
apparently just yeah, that's just agent talk, Gilbert. We know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
ESG says so much hope at the beginning of this season, and I said I warned people about. That's why I said what are reasonable expectation, and that's part of it because you come off a playoff season, and it's hard to take that same team and that momentum and take it into the next season just because we see that every year six new teams make the playoffs, but there's still a possibility. They're not out of the playoffs yet, so we'll see. But yeah, it's just hard. And one more here from ESG says, I know paying Kyron Williams. I don't know about paying Kyron Williams big money. They won't. I can tell you that now, Gilbert. I just don't see it now. With I think one of the things I have come to a conclusion on is that they they're not they're gonna play Kyron Williams the rest of the season, and we won't see the rookie running back till next season.
Yeah, and I know Kyron Williams didn't really have the most productive rookie year, and he took off the second year. Maybe the same thing for Blake Corum. You drafted him for a reason. Also, are they more Saquon Barkley's available in free agency? Maybe they look, but I think people know not to give up on these veteran star running backs anymore. And Kyron Williams was a good running back. It might hurt him now that he's not viewed as a Derrick Henry or a Saquon Barkley because yes, they are different levels to his position here.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I mean, there's people who are on here like G Barisi says Kyron Williams has to go. We should have traded him. So I mean, a lot of people are
Yeah.
disappointed with
I
his
don't know about all
effort.
that. I think he's a
Yeah,
productive player
yeah,
still, but he has one more year on his contract too.
yeah, and they're gonna use that contract,
Mhm.
or maybe they trade him like they did with Ernest Jones, and we'll see. I
And then we're
mean,
talking about it for 3 months not knowing what the hell
yeah.
happened.
Yeah, so yeah, it's hard, and I get it, especially when you have a player on a rookie contract, and so I get it. Michael Armenta, here, let me where did I leave off? Here we go. Flacco says, "Man, we look good in the beginning and just give up along the way. Horrible way to lose." Michael Armenta says, "It must be nice to have a mobile quarterback, Matt. The statue Stafford season feels the pocket collapsing and doesn't try to scramble or throw it
Wow.
away." So yeah, I
It
mean, there's not a lot of positivity, no excuses for injuries now, says James Wheelock. ESG says the better team won today. We just used to have the injury issues. That's no longer the case. Gridiron Beauty says this was the biggest test for us, but our youth on defense is still improving and our secondary is weak. Barkley is massive test. So yeah. I mean, I can keep going down these these comments, Gilbert. There's no and I get the frustration. Same old crap, no adjustment from Michael Armenta. So, yeah, I mean, we try to be well, we try to be positive, but even the
no,
comments are
they're
pretty
they're like,
negative.
"Okay, where's that one show where they're super negative? Let's jump on that show right now
That
because they know they're
today,
gonna give us what we want." So, maybe we should
yeah,
tone it down with trying to
true.
find some positivity here. So, yes, the season's over, it's terrible. Who cares about being 1 game behind in the NFC West? I get it. It might be frustrating right now because this team is talented, and after what happened in 2023, you have a close to full, offense there in terms after going through that injury wave. The defense was starting to pick it up, and then you do this, and you're embarrassed. And then maybe not too long ago, you laid an egg in Miami. You had a very sluggish win in New England. They're definitely underachieving. They're a disappointing team. They're 5-6, but NFC West, man, that standings. Go look at the standings, and you're gonna feel better. That's the one positive me and Victor could give you here.
Carlos Adrian Gaitan says, "Why be positive? Talk the truth. This team is soft and really bad coach." So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, and I get it. One of the things we try to do here is try to give you a fair and balance in terms of covering this team. Gilbert was he was the beat reporter for that terrible 5-12 season, but you know, and that's just the way we try to do things. Unfortunately, when we do our previews, I know a lot of people get upset about that in terms of how we go about the way we break down things, and we just try to give you guys the our different perspective because a lot of people are going to do things their way in the way they talk about the Rams, and we just try to give you a different perspective, and that's the way we
Yeah.
like to do things. I really like doing that because when I listen to podcasts or I see people breaking down things, one of the things that I really dislike was like the way too much positivity. Like I need a little bit of balance, and so I understand where people are coming from and why they're upset tonight, because I think they're starting to see the writing on the wall, Gilbert, when it comes to this team.
Yeah, and I think we have been holding back a little bit because obviously we saw the Vikings victor. We're like, oh, okay, maybe they might do something. It might be 2023 all over again. They might go 7-1 after the bye week kind of thing. Then you got the Miami game. Then you kind of got the so-so New England game. And even they were like, okay, well, let's see what they got with the Eagles. And we thought that the Rams will could at least cover. We picked the Eagles, both of us here to win the
Yeah.
game, but in the cover. And I think now it's getting to the point 2023 is not going to happen. They're not going to rip off, 6 or 7 wins or consecutively or 7 out of 8, whatever it is. They're going to probably, maybe if they're lucky, get 9 victories. Maybe they go 8-9. Uh, I don't know how this division is going to play out because one week I think it's 49ers, one thing is Arizona, the other week is Seattle, maybe sometimes it's the LA Rams. And uh, that was a boring game to watch, by the way. Seattle and Arizona.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I was
Se-
watching that one.
Seattle just had a good defense, shut them down. They were in Seattle, but it's nothing like, oh, okay, they're gonna run away with the division. So there's always that NFC West, but it's just starting to feel like, what do you care about this team being one and done? Do you care about getting the 3 or 4 seed and then getting smacked by the Vikings or Packers or Lions or whoever? So be it. But it doesn't feel like 2023, and that's where I think we could start leaning that way because that's not going to happen. That 7 out of 8 is not going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean this division, it looks like it's gonna, like you said, someone's gonna either win it at 9-8 or 10-7, and so that's what you kind of, as a fan, you need to figure out what you want out of this season. Do you want to win the division for the first time in a couple years? If that, and that's a good thing, Gilbert. Like to me, I take that, right? Because you came into the season like, you set you set goals as a, as a fan base, as a team, you're the Rams, and you're like, if we win the division, that's taking the next step, right? Because you make the playoffs as a
Yeah,
wild card.
yeah, good point.
So is that what you want? Do you want to make the playoffs and win the division, or do you want to make it as a wild card? Because then you're just at the same level. So I think that's where you kind of need to figure things out going forward for the rest of the season. Is I think you feel better as a Rams fan if this team makes the playoffs, but if they do so winning the division, because that at least signifies that you make progress, and it also, while you're rebuilding this team, you didn't rebuild it, but what was the term? I forget what the term was that they used. I think it was called like a remodel or something, or
Or
retooling.
retooling, yeah, retooling.
Yeah,
But there is something to it. I get it. Like if they go one and done, that's kind of like, okay, what are you doing here? You could have got a better pick. But there's something to winning the division. There is something there behind beating the 49ers twice in a season.
yeah.
There's something there to, split with Arizona and make that game right after the ugly game in what was it, week 2? I forget. There's something to
Week
beating
two, yes.
Seattle twice. If you go, so what is that? Maybe you go 5-1 in division, especially for a young roster, that could mean something, but then does it mean anything if Matthew Stafford's gone next year and you're doing it all over again with a different quarterback who's young, who has to go through his growing pains too? So that's the
Right.
tricky part right there. So it's not like what we're seeing. I'm not trying to compare it to the Panthers. Nobody wants to be compared to the Panthers, but Bryce Young going toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter and getting a more victory, that matters for them because that kind of feels good for them. Same thing to Arizona last year. I keep talking about Arizona keeping it close and then winning some games, beating Pittsburgh, beating Philadelphia, beating the Dallas Cowboys, and now they're winning games more often this year. They're not winning too many games because they got beat down today. But I'm just
Right.
saying, for sometimes having those competitive games, it does carry to next year. But like we always say, every year is different. And
Oh yeah.
like the point of this show, 2023 is not going to happen. But
Yes.
I know it kind of went up and down, hot or cold like the Rams here. But it's just that whole future about if Stafford's going to be here. It really kind of throws a wrench into this how you want to play out the season.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point there with Stafford. Is if you're gonna continue this with Stafford, then winning the division, even if it's at 9-8 or 10-7, whatever it is, I think that a positive, that's a step in the right direction because you've improved what you did from the year before. Now, do I think this is a better team than 2023, as you just mentioned? No, not right now. They haven't shown us that. I mean, they got really hot at the end there. Maybe that's why it's a bit. But you also had Aaron Donald. This team does not have Aaron Donald, and that's
Yep.
a big difference. And that's just the reality of it, Gilbert.
And for a second, we thought they're going to be okay because that defensive front was playing so well. They invested heavily there in the draft with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse and Byron Young and Kobe Turner. Uh, so you got four guys right there that you drafted, very highly the last 2 years, and they were starting to look good. But yes, Aaron Donald. Imagine Aaron Donald with that front. We could definitely help you out. Imagine Ernest Jones behind you to help you out. It's just they're just don't have a lot of depth. They're very loaded on the defensive front, but there's no help behind them. So, in a way, it's kind of like we talk about sometimes with these teams that win a year early during the rebuild. This is
Yeah.
where you start to pay the consequences because you're still building the other parts of the team, but you're trying to be a competitive roster, and you're not there yet because you haven't fixed the linebackers, you haven't fixed the secondary, you got a bunch of injuries on the offensive line, and then you whiffed on a couple of signings too. That doesn't help out. So in a way that they're taking a couple steps backwards, but 2023 was a big step in the right direction, but now they're going backwards. And I think that's what's frustrating for a lot of fans here.
Yeah, especially when you finally spend money and all those signings have just not, worked out. I mean, Demarcus Robinson, and I say this, and Kevin Dotson's were re-signed, so I don't really count them. I count the other ones because those were guys that you brought in from the outside, and they just haven't worked out. But I would say this, Gilbert, in terms of going forward, you're at least know where you should feel good about it in terms of what Les Need is building. And I know a lot of people are saying, hey, Sean McVay and Les need to go, but they're doing it the right way. Unfortunately, like you mentioned, what ends up happening with instant success is you create expectations and people are, a lot of people had them winning 11 games, 10-7 in this season. And when you create those expectations, when you lose like you did tonight, you're just like, well, what happened? Where did it all go wrong? But they're building this the right way. So I would say kind of temper expectations and see where this the rest of the season. That's why I asked, I'm like, now that they're here at 5-6, right? They played 11 games. They have 6 to go. Realistically, what do you want to see the rest of the season going forward? And how do you want to finish? I think that's the what you want to know going forward for the remaining what is it, 6 games.
Yeah, and here's something else where like I'm gonna be like maybe tone it down a bit. And I get when people are frustrated and you're not meeting expectations, you're underachieving, you're just being disappointing, and you see the talent there, but there's talent for a reason. There's a promise. You're not one of these bad teams like the New York Giants who got beat down today by the Buccaneers because you have less need. You have Sean McVay, and right now, 49er fans want Kyle Shanahan fired. I
Oh
get
yeah.
it. Kyle Shanahan has not won the Super Bowl, but he's gotten to the Super Bowl twice in the last 5 years, 3 consecutive trips to the NFC title game. Like, let's hold on. I get it. 2024 is a crappy year and it's disappointing. But when you have a good coach, you want to hold on because you can't win every year. You can't go like Bill Belichick and be in the playoffs every single year, win a division every single year. I know Andy Reid does it every single year, but it's just those are the top of the top. That's a luxury coach right there. Then you got very good ones like Sean McVay. Mike Tomlin gets to the playoffs pretty often, but even people get tired of his act. They're criticizing him for the Cleveland game on Thursday night when he was doing so many things well before that. So that to me is where like I don't go too far there. People really want Sean McVay to either get fired, give up play calling. I'm not there yet. Like people know on the show, listening to me the last few weeks, when people ask me that, I'm like, that's too much. I can't go there. He's a great coach, good play caller. I get it. He has his flaws, but look at other play callers. They're not that good. So
Yeah.
that's the only part where I'll be like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But crap it on this season, crap it on the way the roster was built, crap it on not fixing some holes here, trading Ernest Jones, bad game management in certain games from Sean McVay. I'm cool with all that. But just saying things like, hey, let's fire the coach, fire everybody. That's where maybe I'll pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, especially when this team, and I thought I heard I was listening to somebody say like how long I think it had to do with baseball, but it was like how long of a grace period do you have? Like how long can you live off that championship, right? And the same thing with Sean McVay. Like I understand, but you're rebuilding this team. You know, they won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and I know they keep bringing up the stat that his record hasn't been good since he won the Super Bowl, but you know he has to rebuild that team. I mean, they went all in for a reason, and then you saw the consequences of it. But one thing we've said, Gilbert, you've brought this up is the Saints refuse, and this is the team. We'll talk about it on Tuesday. I think is when we're doing the preview. We'll talk about it about the Saints' refusal to rebuild, and the Rams did it. Like they said, you know what, we have to pay the credit card now that we won the Super Bowl. They were able to do so. They're still having to pay for that credit card bill, Gilbert. That's why they're still, you know, hey, they paid the credit card bill, but now they're starting to, you know, build that credit, as you would say if you were talking about finance. This is where the Rams are right now, is they're trying to, you know, fix they're trying to fix their credit. And so yeah, you just got to give them time. Eventually they'll get their credit score above 700, and you'll be talking about a contender year after year.
Yeah, it's been a kind of a tough balance for Lesney to rebuild and try to win now because again, last year really jump started this thing and they felt like they had a good team to compete, at least for one more year with Matthew Stafford. But I think Matthew Stafford is the last piece here of doing a full rebuild. He had a great season last year. Why not do it again? I'm okay with that. And I'm also very okay with them saying, you know what, we'll give you more guaranteed money, but we're not going to add more years to your contract. I think after this year, you got to meet at the table, weigh your options for the betterment of the team. If you're still doing well, you want to be here, we'll work it out. If you don't want to be here or you're not doing well, we'll let you go. So I like that, keeping the options open, making sure you keep getting younger and more talented at every position, even the quarterback position. And when I was asked to try to find the landing spot for Aaron Rodgers for the story I wrote at SI.com, where I couldn't really find the landing spot, retirement spot probably better. You know, people were saying, well, how about the Rams? And I mentioned the Rams, like, yeah, they might give up on Matthew Stafford, but look at everything the Rams have done since the crappy defending champion season, 2022. Get younger at every position. There's a
Hmm.
reason why they did not give more years to Matthew Stafford. So why the hell will Aaron Rodgers come to LA when they're trying to get younger at every position? So honestly, I would not be surprised if this is the last year for Stafford. And I know people in the comments, maybe half of them want Stafford to be gone, the other don't. I get it. It's very tricky, but I think Leslie is having the right approach by at least weighing your options and seeing what happens. And right now, it's not looking likely for a return for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, so the way I think it's gonna work for Les Need is he's gonna look at all his options, and he's gonna, if he can get a young quarterback in the draft, he's
That's
gonna
true.
do it, right? But if he strikes out again, like we saw with the six quarterbacks that went in the first 12 picks, then he's gonna re-sign Stafford and he's gonna run it again. That's the way you do it. You don't do what the Jets did and you trade and give up all your, it's just, that's just not the way you do it. That's why I get it. Like you said, just pump the brakes right now. I understand, like they're doing this the right way. That's one of the things I give a lot of respect to, not only the front office of the Rams, but like I said, the Ram fans don't know how good they have it. Wait, if you once you lose McVay, man, it's not going to be the same. I can just tell you that, because we see it the same thing with the Chiefs. The minute Andy Reeves or Mahomes are gone, it things are gonna they're not gonna be the same for the Chiefs. I'm telling you, it's just, that's just the way. Look at the Patriots, man. Like it's been what's like people just remember the fact that Belichick just got fired last season. They hadn't won in a couple years now, and it might be a situation where you see what happened with the Bulls, where you had Michael Jordan there, where he won six titles. Same thing with the Patriots, and you might not see the Patriots win for another 25 years. So it's just, that's the tough thing, is that sometimes when you have it good, you don't know how it is when you don't have, when you have when you don't have when that gets taken away from you.
Yeah, and like again, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves for 2025, but it's going to be something tricky because
Yes.
they're going to win enough games. They're, like the one thing we do know, they're going to be competitive here, and yeah, they might not win 10 games, but they're going to maybe win 7, 8, 9, and it's going to knock you out of the quarterback race. But who really is the quarterback prospect that you want in this draft? It doesn't look like
Well,
it's going to be
not this one, but according to Johnny G, is Arch Manning will be
so.
Stafford's
But that's the thing. You have to really lose a lot of games next year. Not
this
we're
year.
start if we're starting to build the hype for Archie Manning in 2025. He's going to be the number one pick or at least top five. You better lose a lot of games, and I hope
Games. Yeah.
hopefully everybody here is very patient for that, or maybe
Yeah.
trade a bunch of picks, or maybe this is might be it's going to be the offseason where the Rams are doing some weird things where they're gaining a bunch of draft picks. Is
Oh
that going
yeah.
to make sense to you? You're giving away maybe some talented players. Mary Cooper Cup goes for a second round, not second round pick anymore, third round pick or whatever because you're trying to get ammo to move up in the draft because this team right now is not that bad to land a top 5 pick. But we're getting our head of ourselves. Let's see what
Yes.
Stafford does here. And again, let's need credit to him because once the season's over, that's when you weigh your options. Like Victor, you mentioned, if you don't have a good draft pick, if you don't have the draft capital to move up, hey Stafford, want to come back and do it again?
Yeah, and you can give him the money he wants. He wants to be here in LA. I mean, his why has a podcast. I understand you can do a podcast from anywhere, but I mean, he loves living here now, and so I yeah, I mean, I think that's the way it's gonna be. But I to me, I still go back to this. Look, this loss against the Eagles showed us a lot, and it gave us a lot of answers that we've kind of known, but it we really I guess you needed to see the national audience kind of needed to see where they were at, and I think now everybody kind of find out where the Rams are. They're a 500 team that their offense isn't as good as we think. Their defense isn't. They're in much improved. They're better than what we thought they'd be, but now we know what this. Everybody knows now what this team really is.
It's a team with no identity through 12 weeks, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, and kudos to the Eagles. I mean, I think we found out now that like and I asked you this, on the preview, kind of talking about the Eagles here for just a minute, whether or not I just looking at their talent, and they were without Devontae Smith. Imagine if Devontae Smith was in this game. I mean, this might have been even worse for the Rams. So I think I'm a little bit more excited now in terms of the playoffs because I just didn't think the Lions were going to get any. They I didn't think they were going to get any pushback from any of the teams in the NFC, but this Eagles team might have something to say, especially if they get the number one seed because all they got left now, Gilbert, going forward is they have the Ravens and the Steelers on their schedule that are over 500. Outside of that, no, is it the or was it the Commanders? No, they already they're going to face the Commanders one more time. So that's the other team above 500. So,
Yeah, and I think I saw
but
they don't really have any more road trips. They don't
the,
they go to Baltimore, which is not that far from Philly, and they go to Washington, which is not that far from Philly. So
yeah, before we go, I did want to bring this up, and this is a good point by Daniel. It isn't cool that you can change if you decline or accept the penalty as the other team tries to go for
oh
it. This
yeah, I
has
saw
nothing to
that.
do with the Eagles. I've seen this already 3 times this season, and I'm like, especially I love the fact that NBC talked about this because once you like they said, I don't know what the protocol is here, but once you say, "Hey, we're declining that penalty or we're accepting the penalty," you shouldn't be able to change it once you've already made that call. Like especially when he saw that the Rams had already we had the offense on the field and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna accept the penalty." You should not be able to do that. And I already, like I said, this has nothing to do with this game because I've already seen it this season at least 3 times. I just think that's a rule that needs to change.
Yeah, and if people know the rules and are taking advantage of it, Bill Belichick did it all the time. So
Hmm.
credit to the ones who are doing it. But yeah, I think definitely has to change. And for a second, I thought we were talking about the challenge in the first quarter, where like the play ran and they threw the flag out.
That's
That
another one.
like I don't care if the ref didn't see it; they freaking snapped the ball. Like no, keep
Yes,
going. So that's on the. You saw Nick Sirianni was pissed off at his coaches for not telling him soon enough because he thought
right.
he blew it. So yeah, you got to be quicker with this. Get quicker with your team. to throw it before the ball snap. If you don't get the attention of the refs, that's another thing. I'm like, that's your problem, not the refs' problem. So I thought that was weird too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't like to get on the refs. Like I wasn't gonna. The only reason I wanted to bring this up was because I've already seen it 3 times with other games, not with the Rams, and I'm just like this that needs to change. And you're right, even with the flag one, I was just like that just seems weird because the play had already been
Yeah,
called, and I was kind of I was kind of surprised that McVay wasn't upset about it with either
I
of
don't
the
know.
two calls. I would have been upset because, but I don't know if that's just gamemanship or what.
Yeah, at some point you're probably like, damn, they know the rules and they use it pretty well, and that happened all the time with Bill Belichick. So I guess you gotta take your hat off.
Yeah, but that's it on terms of talking about this game, Gilbert. We get ready for the preview Tuesday, right? We're doing the preview Tuesday.
Yeah, with Thanksgiving and trying to move things up or move things around to get through the week. Yeah, we'll do the preview show here on Tuesday. Hopefully, you guys are bringing the same energy for that. You want to complain about the team? Join
Yes.
us on Tuesday. I'm saying we're probably gonna go around 5:30 because we're gonna record four compas after that. Stick around for that too if you want. So, yeah, so it'll be a all NFL talk with four compas. Dan, Fernando, Vic, and I around 6:30, 7 p.m. And then 5:30 p.m. Pacific. House of Horns will break down Saints and the Rams. And then I know maybe that game is kind of like, you think the Rams will handle it? Not when the Cowboys beat the Commanders. Not when the Titans beat the Texans. Not when the Panthers almost took the Chiefs to overtime. I bashed this freaking schedule, and it actually was some entertaining games and one of the best switching hours of the season. So
Yeah,
that's
that
why we
was.
play the damn games, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I mean that 12 o'clock to 1:30 like time frame was just crazy today. Hey, I didn't think this was going to be a good weekend, just like you, but it turned out to be. I'm glad I was able to watch, and it sucks that the Rams got blown out, but I was kind of happy to just be able to watch all these games because usually I got to focus just on the Rams, and so that is true. And then one thing that I think the Saints haven't lost since they fired their coach Dennis
Yeah,
Allen.
they were in a bye
So
week too, right? Yeah.
yeah, they were on a bye week, so they're coming off a bye for the first time. I think last season, I think the Rams got 4 or 5 teams coming off a bye week. This is I think either the first or the second time it's happened so far this season. So there
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of those like there was last season. So yeah, a lot to discuss. And then I thought one of the schedule quirks too, Gilbert, that I saw was that it's not a 10 a.m. game; it's a 1 o'clock game
Huh, and
locally here,
it's in New Orleans, right?
right? But
Yeah, that
it's gonna, yeah,
yeah, I guess maybe when those is it Central Time when your tower's ahead, you could kinda get away with it, but yeah, it's like, really? I don't know. Uh,
yeah,
get it over with in the morning, but it's not.
yeah. And I mean, we go right into it since you got to do, you got to cover the whole league. So
Yeah, I
that
think
I for me it,
49ers
it
and Bills
works.
are
I
Sunday
like
night.
it. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of Ram fans are happy about that. I mean, some people like those 10 a.m. games. I don't mind them, but then we gotta wait for a few hours and then talk about it. I know a lot of people jumped on here. This is the most people I think we've had in
Yeah,
in a while. So
last
awesome
game of
to
the
see from
night.
everybody.
Yeah, peop
Gridiron Beauties, James Wheelock, Johnny G, Daniel Calderon, James Wheelock, all good things. Jack Fox, who's an Eagles fan, Carlos Adrian Gaitan. Let me go through the Gibarisi. Who else we got? Joshua Sippin. Yeah, just awesome to see people here on the comments. We really appreciate hit that. Oh, even Evan Holtz, I wanted to get this one, and he says, Vic, you said it. The Rams were in there fighting, but sometimes the other team has super superior players. I think we saw the Eagles have a better roster, better players. So good to hear from Evan Holtz. We haven't heard from him in a while, so that's why I put the Flacco was in here as well. Michael Armenta, who else we got? And Delbert and Danny. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. That was awesome. I know it's a frustrating night for everybody. So with that is associated with the Rams, but yeah, join us on Tuesday. We can't wait, and we'll have a good preview show for you guys between the Rams and the Saints.
yeah, 1 week at a time, any
Yeah.
given Sunday. That was a reminder this week, with all the
Yep.
upsets and then this ugly game here, but, yeah, we'll break down Saints and the Rams. as we head into the holiday week here for Thanksgiving. But
Yeah, I hope
uh,
everybody has a good Thanksgiving. Like I said, we're in case you don't join us for that. I just
yeah,
want to make sure whoever's on here right
yeah,
now have a happy Thanksgiving. But if you don't join us, have a Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving, and there's a lot to
yeah.
be thankful for. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure people are probably traveling this week, so
So yeah,
hopefully make time. If not, watch the replay show or listen to us on audio. We put our audio versions on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so check us out there too as well. While you're on the plane, download the episode. That'd be also very cool if you could do that to support the channel here. But thank you everybody for joining us and having a good venting session here. But there'll be better days. But it's time to get going here to end this post game show between the Rams and the Eagles. If you can be a compa, tell a compa about House of Horns, about compas on the beat. Will be greatly appreciated. Comment even on the replay version and then like it. And yeah, but time to get going. On that note, ya nos vamos. Pues vámonos.